Hey there, true believers. This is the Multiversal Archivist coming at you with another video. So today, I thought I'd do some suit lore. We're going to dive into Spider-Man 2 specifically. I want to discuss the Secret War Civil War Spider-Man suit. It's one of my favorite suits in the game. I love the details on it. I think the costume itself is pretty rad as well. It's also not a suit you're expecting. Spider-Man? With falcon wings? What's going on with that? Oh, hold on tight, and we will get into it. Now that being said, there's not much lore of it in universe. We never find out why Peter is using the Falcon's wings. We can assume the Falcon died in the big event that's a part of this storyline, but why Peter took on the mantle, so to speak, because he's never really referred to as Falcon, is kind of up to interpretation. Now, he is Steve's right-hand man in the comic book, so you can say that it's because of that, but, he might have just picked up the wings and said, I can rock this look. What comic issue am I talking about? Well, I'm talking about Secret War Civil War, which came out in 2015. It was part of the Secret Wars tie-in event. It was written by Charles Soule and Lionel Francis Yu. The synopsis reads as follows. The Civil War never ended. Welcome to the War Zone, where 6 years of non-stop battle between the Blue and Iron forces have split the nation down its center, utterly transforming it. In a world of new alliances and strange enemies, President Tony Stark and General Steve Rogers meet to make one last attempt at peace. Now, we're not going to talk about the comic itself. Instead, we're going to talk about the suit and Peter Parker. After all, this is a lore video, more specifically a suit lore video. Now, in this universe, Peter Parker went through the same traumatic series of events from the original iconic series. This includes him joining Tony Stark's side at first, and then went over to Steve Rogers' side when it blew up in his face. The big thing you need to know is that Peter hates Tony Stark with a burning passion. Now briefly, where the comic differentiates is the length of the war. In this, the war has been going on for 6 years, enough time for America to be divided down the middle. Land of the Blue is a land of freedom and self-government. General Steve's only 2 rules, hurt no one and help when you can. And opposing Steve is the land of the Iron. President Tony Stark established order and law in his territory, so everyone is regulated up the wazoo. Circling back to Peter, this divide has also divided the Parker household. Mary Jane and Peter are married with a little girl. However, Mary Jane and Maybelle, their daughter, live in Tony Stark's territory. Tony brings Mary Jane and Maybelle to the peace talks so they can spend time together as a family. These peace talks are interrupted, though, when the person leading them gets shot and killed. So Peter only gets a little bit of time with his daughter and wife before the events of the comic take him away from them. Mary Jane implies it's been 6 years since they last saw each other. Tony is the one who brought Mary Jane and Maybelle in the first place, so he's not a total monster about it. At the end of the series, Peter reveals that Mary Jane chose to live in the Iron with their daughter, and Peter chose to live in the Blue so he could continue the fight and be free of prison. Peter uses the wings to rush out to a sniper nest in the comic. Steve calls him the fastest man he has. We get a cool shot of his new teched out wings in the first issue. The military-style cargo pants are a nice touch too. It fits this more military-focused Peter Parker. In later issues, Peter talks about why he stays in the Blue. There's an implied choice there, as he talks about being free and believing in what Steve has built. He's the one who wants Steve to use his secret end the war weapon. One of the great things about the comics is that it's grown past the original Civil War battle lines. Peter is the first to mention that Tony's been starving the Blue by cutting off their resources. This has gone beyond a superhero versus superhero conflict. It's 2 nations at war. This has turned Peter into a sterner, harder hero than before. He's not afraid to deploy a secret weapon. Later in the series, he threatens Flint Marko even as he screams in pain. To stop this war, save his people, and be with his family, he's even ready to go behind enemy lines. This Peter isn't without faults. He's so consumed by his hatred of Stark and his desperation to get back to his family that he's unwilling to see that they're all being played. Steve tries to question the timing of all this, and Peter isn't willing to hear it. Commando Peter is so cool though. He's gruff, authoritative, and laser focused on getting the job done. He leads Steve's strike team in the Iron to get the material they need for their super weapon. This strike team includes Elektra, Azari, who is meant to be the son of Black Panther, and Hawkeye wearing a Venom suit. Peter puts his wings and webs to good use when he takes down an Iron Man Sentinel by webbing its hand and forcing it to shoot itself. Now this Peter is light on the jokes, however his old friend Wilson Fisk gets at least one out of him. I say Wilson Fisk, but in reality, it's the corpse of Wilson Fisk being used as a puppet by Doc Ock's tentacles. The humor is short-lived. Peter gets back from the mission and laments about his wiring being off. They last Elektra on the mission, and he comments that he doesn't feel anything over it. Back in the day, he would have sworn revenge on her or used her death as a motivation. He even calls his old way of thinking pathetic. He remembers what it used to be like to feel something, but he doesn't have it in him anymore. Even so, Peter still has Steve Rogers' utmost trust and respect. Steve tasks Peter with pulling their people back while Steve draws in Iron Man forces and activates the weapon that will cause them to lose their powers. This super weapon has been developed by Beast and is really interesting in and of itself. In the epilogue, after it's all said and done, Peter seems to be in charge of the Blue after General Rogers and President Tony sacrifice themselves. He gets the final line of the series. Jennifer Walters, now leader of the Iron, asks Peter if Steve and Tony took everyone's powers away on purpose. Peter replies, "I don't know, but I'll tell you one thing, I don't want to fight about it." This Peter does also get his happy ending. Maybelle and Mary Jane come to the Blue so that way they can be together. And there you have it. I hope you guys liked this lore video. This has been Multiversal Archivist. Keep calm and don't look a gift horses sugar cubes.